Back when the Hornet variants were announced, the Hornet Ghost offered something fairly unique in the Star Citizen fighter sphere, a dedicated low-profile stealth fighter to slip past eagle eyes and go in under the radar, so to speak. But many years on, and given that the game doesn't yet feature the final form of scanning and radar, how does the Hornet Ghost actually stack up in the game? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable Anvil Aerospace Hornet Ghost, which is described as a stealth fighter. If you've seen other reviews on this channel, then you probably know what to expect, with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. And we'll start the tour of the Hornet Ghost by approaching from the left or port side. To enter into the fighter, there's a hatch on the left or port side which deploys a ladder which takes you up into the canopy. It's worth adding, sometimes this can get a little stuck. If that happens, just approach it again and say enter the cockpit. That will take you up the ladder. Once you hop into the cockpit itself, aside from distracting MFDs at the top which appear slightly too early, there's plenty of room for MFDs in your field of view, as well as some controls on your lower left and lower right. Whilst the Ghost carries many of the same hardpoints as other Hornets, some are left unused in the default loadout, which carries only 2 size 3 fixed Omnisky 9 cannons on the wings. The nose mount goes empty, and the size 5 ball mount in the centre is capped off with a Ghost module. You can choose to fill those slots, which, frankly, in the current build makes sense. For this review, I've added in Panthers to the nose and 2 wing slots, and 2 Scorpion Gatling guns to a ball turret in the centre, in order to keep running all of the stealth components aboard. In the melee, the Ghost performs as you might expect from a Hornet. The weaponry is considerable, as you might expect from a medium fighter, and gives the Ghost the feeling of a brawler when you're in and amongst the fight. The 2 size 1 shield generators are par for the course for these types of ship, but it's worth adding that the Hornet also has the uncanny ability to stick around for unseasonably long, even when the shields are down. There are a plethora of missiles available, defaulting to 4 size 1 and 4 size 2, which makes for a fair chunk of extra punching power, especially against fighter-sized targets. As far as stealth fighter gameplay goes, that's where the Ghost falls back a little in the current patch. With all of the stealth components fitted, plus the base reduction on signature baked into the hull, you can be a little sneaky and leave it late to be detected. But once you're close enough to fight, you're close enough to be seen, and so you're into the fight anyway. Unlike something like the Eclipse, which can deliver an attack from stealth, the Ghost uses stealth to get close and then fight much like a regular Hornet. Which is fine because it does that well, and that may well even become more relevant in future flight model changes, but one to bear in mind for those looking at the stealth fighter credentials. In line with a regular Hornet, visibility in the Ghost is fairly good. Although there are a couple of cockpit struts in the glass, for the most part you can see out well to the sides and above. The interior does feel a little dated however, and there is a bug where the black MFD screens show above you before the cockpit glass closes. But once you're seated and flying, you get the same handling rates as the regular Hornet 2, which makes the Ghost a decent choice for brawls against AI. And the more generous stores of boost also mean you can kick the Ghost around a fair amount. Moreover, the handling of the ship feels very predictable. You learn what to expect from it, and that helps to make it easier to fly. With a top speed of 1,229 meters per second, and a combat speed of around 192 meters per second, and that's before the next flight model changes of course, the Ghost is par for par equal to the regular Hornet on speed, and that puts it in a reasonable place. Not quite so fast as the dedicated interceptors or light fighters, but still very fast nonetheless. By way of quantum drive, the stock option is the EOS, which is fairly awful. It largely seems to have been chosen over the stealth drives to give the Hornet Ghost a little more range, which it sorely needs, but also limits the effective upgrade choices for this drive. One advantage of those small quantum fuel tanks is that you're unlikely to spend a fortune on refueling, repairing, or rearming your Hornet Ghost. Most trips come in below 1000 Alpha UEC, and even the most expensive brawls are likely no more than 4 figures. Whilst there is no cargo storage aboard, unless you opt for the add-on extra store all module for the bull mount, that's probably no surprise for pilots who would pick up the Ghost, expecting to make their money through combat. Medium and high threat bounty hunter targets seem to be the sweet spot, where the Ghost can do a reasonable job of powering through each mission in turn and making a fair amount of money in doing so. In terms of changing loadout, I'd definitely upgun the Ghost. Add in the centre ball turret and swap out the weapons for Panthers, or Badgers if you're into gimbals. If you're wanting to keep the stealth components, maybe swap out the quantum drive for a drift. But given the limited utility of stealth gameplay in the current patch, you'd be forgiven for replacing many of the components for military spec anyway. So there are some drawbacks to the Hornet. First of all, despite already having one rework in its lifetime, the model is starting to look quite dated, both inside and out, and the Ghost certainly falls victim to that. The wing folding, whilst a great space saver, feels a little clunky and clumsy compared to some of the other mechanisms out there. And for PvP combat, the current choices seem much more to be towards the lighter end of the fighter spectrum, meaning the Hornet doesn't get a lot of love there. As has already been mentioned, the stealth mechanics leave a little to be desired, at least in the current patch, and for the Ghost being a brawler rather than a long-range torpedo bomber. But there's a lot to like about the Hornet Ghost too. The black aesthetics, although dated, do give off a military vibe. The thrusters, as with others in the Hornet series, can all be seen to individually rotate, which is always interesting to watch. There's a set of lights that can be toggled on for extra visibility, and ultimately it's a capable ship in combat against the AI. Which brings us back to price. At $125 out of game, or 1.65 million Alpha UEC in-game, the Ghost does carry a small price premium against the regular F7C. And although you do get that reduced radar signature, for the most part the Hornet platform is the same, certainly in what it can effectively do in-game at the moment. And so the Ghost livery almost becomes like a fancy paint instead. So I suppose the verdict is, the better value is in the regular Hornet if you're in the market for a ship in the Hornet series, albeit the stealth nature of the Ghost may become more useful in future patches. Only time will tell. But do you agree? I know when the Hornet variants were first launched, the Ghost was one of the most popular, so if you're a former or current owner, I'll be particularly interested to read your thoughts in the comments. Once again, if you're not yet subscribed, you really might consider it if you got this far, as I have more Star Citizen ship reviews you can expect over the coming months. And it would also be really helpful if you would press that like or dislike button to guide me as to what videos you're enjoying the most, so I can tailor them to you. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.